Alright guys, how you doing? I'm Music Nerd here, and there was one tier list that I forgot to do of this certain section 2010s. I did rap stars, I did R&B singers, rock bands, and now I'm going to be covering the pop category. So this is my tier list of pop stars of the 2010s. I'm going to tell you what I think about all these lovely people here ranked. It's going to be more singles oriented than albums oriented, so just to make that sure you guys get clear of that. Before I get into this video, this tier list, if you enjoy this content, you enjoy these type of videos, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button down below. We are almost at 1,000 subscribers, which is amazing, so let's keep those numbers growing. And if you're a return subscriber, and you do enjoy these type of videos, make sure to hit the notification bell to be alerted for new content. Alright, let's get into it. First one, Adele. Now, Adele came into the decade as kind of one of that umbrella of like British soul singers like Amy Winehouse, Duffy. You remember Duffy, right? Estelle, Leon Lewis. She had that nice hit, Chasing Pavements, which was a decent hit for her. But I don't think anybody really saw the rise to superstardom that Adele showed during this decade. She came out with 21, which is probably the biggest selling album of the 2010s. I mean, that was probably nothing short of a national phenomenon when Rolling the Deep came out. Someone Like You, Set Fire to the Rain, and then she came out, took a little break, just cleaned out the Grammys that year. And she took a little 4-year hiatus and came out with 25, which again did huge numbers, even though it didn't really have the numbers and significance that 21 had, but still had a ton of hits. Hello, what is it? Water Under the Bridge. So a lot of hits on that record as well. So yeah, Adele basically grown a lot during this decade musical wise. She has established herself as probably the biggest pop star. It's interesting that we're starting with her because she's probably the most popular singer today worldwide. So and I like Adele. I like her singing. She doesn't make songs that annoy me. It's always great to hear her on the radio. So you gotta put her in the S tier. A tremendous decade for Adele. Next one, Ariana Grande. And I will admit, in the beginning of the decade, was kind of like, she was in the Nickelodeon show, and but she did have some talent. But I gotta put respect on her name. Over the past few years, she has put out consistent work, and she's put out great singles. Thank You Next, Dangerous Women, Seven Rings, just a bunch of like great hits. God Is a Woman, No Tears Left to Cry, and especially after what she's been through, losing Mac Miller, dealing with the Manchester concert fiasco, the Pete Davidson breakup. So a lot of stuff going on in her personal life, and still putting out great music every year. Listen, maybe not all the songs hit for some people, but I admire her consistency, and I think she's got a great voice. She's a rising, she's really, people have made this comparison about her and Mariah Carey, but she really is the Mariah Carey of our generation. Gotta put her in the A tier. Solid work during this decade. Our next one, Britney Spears, and let's be honest. Britney Spears coming into her basically third decade because her first album came out in '99, and she did have a couple hits. Hold It Against Me, but she did have that Britney bitch movement thing with Will I Am, which Scream and Shout, which is a horrible song. You had Britney singing in a fake British accent for some reason. So and then she also collaborated with Iggy Azalea, which didn't really hit the mark. So it's not really the type of decade that she had in the 2000s. I can't say that there are any songs in this decade that I really fuck with Britney wise. So, I think she's just average, put in the C tier. But just not really any singles that really hit for me. Except maybe Hold It Against Me, but that's about it. But free Britney though. That situation is fucked up. Bruno Mars. Now, at the start of the 2010s, I was completely annoyed with Bruno Mars. I hated his aesthetic, that whole 50s, 1960s hipster doo-wop thing. Grenade was on the radio nonstop. Was it the, what is that other song? Just the Way You Are. Ugh. The Lazy song. Ugh. I just hated that doo-wops and hooligans era of Bruno Mars. And then he came out with Locked Out of Heaven. And since that Locked Out of Heaven song, he has risen in my good graces more and more as the decade wore on, and he started adopting a retro soul. You guys know on this channel I love 70s funk, 70s soul, 80s soul, that period. And so Bruno Mars started adopting that type of era, and he just had a slew of just great hits back to back to back to back to back. Even songs like 24 Karat Magic, which is very corny. It's a very corny song, but I can't deny it. It's a banger. Even songs like Uptown Funk, which has been playing on the radio ad nauseum, still a good song. I don't get annoyed by it. So Bruno Mars, just what a decade for him. Won Grammy Award for Album of the Year. So I'm gonna put him in the A tier. Would have put him in the S tier, but just did not like that first album of his. But everything else, incredible. Cardi B, now, I didn't put her in the rap stars category because let's face it, at this point she is a pop star. I don't want to get any discussion which rappers are pop stars, all that stuff. Listen, I'm just saying Cardi B is on tons of commercials. All right, she's a pop star. All right, that's what it is, and really, she has probably, I don't know, been the most random pop star to come out this decade. She started in Love and Hip Hop, and she came out with Bodak Yellow. At the time it came out, I was like, all right, it'll be a nice hit. Maybe top 40, whatever. But people just took a hold of this, and it blew up like gangbusters. Became a top 10 hit. That song was one of the most popular songs of 2017. And alright, she'll be a one-hit wonder. She had a nice song, whatever. Number one hit. It'll be nice for her. And the next 2 years, she came out with the album, and then she came out with 3 more number one singles, and now Cardi B is basically probably the biggest rapper right now. And that momentum has kept growing into the 2020s. So Cardi B, I did fuck with Bodak Yellow. I think it's got a nice beat. And I did like some of the songs, Invasion and Privacy. I did not like that Maroon 5 song, but I won't hold that against her. But overall, I think Cardi B, to my surprise, even though she came later in the decade, I still think that the hits that she put out were pretty solid. Especially the J Balvin collaboration. That was a great song. So I'm going to put her in the B tier. No pun intended. I did not intend that, but yes, she is going in the B tier. Carly Rae Jepsen. Now, she came out with Call Me Maybe, one of the biggest songs of the decade. When that song came out, it was played everywhere. A song that it's okay. It's okay. I think Carly Rae Jepsen garnered more critical acclaim when she started putting out her Emotion albums and Emotion Side B, and she came kind of like an indie pop star, so she wasn't really making hits on the radio anymore. She was kind of like making album oriented music and covering 80s new wave and synth pop. So I think she's gotten into a little niche, and she's killing it in that niche. Am I a huge fan of hers? No. I think she has some songs that are okay, but props to her for reinventing her career. So I'm gonna put her in the C tier. Charlie Puth, another guy, when he came out, did not like that Marvin Gaye song with Meghan Trainor is abominable and more disrespectful to Marvin Gaye than that Blurred Lines song. Yes, I'll say it. What an atrocious song. And he did the collaboration with Wiz Khalifa, which it's nice, but it's not. I mean, at this point, I can't listen to it anymore. I've heard it on the radio so many times. But then Charlie Puth later in the decade, reinvented himself as well. He started out as a 1950s, kind of like Bruno Mars, 1950s, retro pop guy, and then he later developed into a more modern kind of indie R&B style. And this is where he really started to capture, my curiosity, with songs like Attention, and really just like these suave, like R&B-esque hits they started doing. So, props to him for, I think, making better songs, making better pop songs during this era. So I'm gonna put him in the C tier. Christina Aguilera did not have quite the decade she had in the 2000s. When she was just one of the bigger pop stars of that decade, really could do no wrong. And then 2010s, she came out with that album where people accused her of trying to be like Lady Gaga, and didn't really sell that well. And then she had that fiasco with the Super Bowl, forgetting the national anthem. And then she had that Moves Like Jagger song, Maroon 5, which I still think is a pretty bad song, pretty corny. And, she's been on The Voice and kind of kept a low-key music career. She didn't really drop the hits that she did in the last decade, 2000s. So, nothing about this decade really stood out for me for Christina Aguilera. So, I'm going to put her in the D tier. DJ Khaled. Now, I don't know what DJ Khaled is, so, he's not a rapper. So, I'll put him in the pop star or whatever category. And, with DJ Khaled, it's very hit and miss. He's able to group together a group of, rappers and singers for a song. So, I don't even know if it's his songs, but, some songs hit. The Jay-Z Future song was pretty good. The song with John Legend and Nipsey Hussle was good. But he had songs like I'm the One and a song with SZA that literally just ripped off Outkast Mrs. Jackson. So yeah, DJ Khaled, it's very hit and miss. No brainer. But I did like Wild Thoughts. I thought that was a great song. So, yeah, I'm going to put him in the C tier. Very hit or miss for me. Ed Sheeran. Now, Ed Sheeran came out with his 2011 album. I think it was... I'm forgetting because he did like these math signs. I get them confused sometimes. Was it minus? I think the first one was minus. And it was okay. It had like 18, which was a decent hit. But then, middle of 2010s, Ed Sheeran blew up huge. Like, just with the song Sing, which I still love. It's probably my favorite Ed Sheeran pop song. And then Thinking About You. Was it Photograph? Just Don't. And then Shape of You. And it's just a ton of pop singles. I would say Thinking About You is probably his most popular one because it's played on wedding songs. But man, Ed Sheeran, I didn't really expect him to just conquer the pop world like this. He's had tours that are some of the biggest tours of all time, and really he's not a fancy guy. You get what you get with Ed Sheeran. I think he's a pretty cool guy. If we're talking about interviews, he seems like a pretty nice guy. Some songs of his, I did like the Plus album more than the Divide album, to be honest. The Shape of You song, I don't really like it that much. I just think that Ed Sheeran trying to be sexy, it's not a lane that really worked for him. And then he came out with that Collaborations project, and those songs were kind of hit and miss. I did like the Travis Scott one, but hated Justin Bieber one. So Ed Sheeran, I'm gonna put him in the B category because he doesn't make songs that really annoy me. If I would say it's average to pretty good. So I'm gonna put him in the B tier. Halsey, yeah, she just never really did it for me. With Without Me, that song which blew up in 2019, which it was okay, but it was typical of all the other pop songs of that era. Just that trappy, kind of down tempo pop. very melancholic lyrics. But yeah, he just never really had that special quality to me. Maybe it'll happen in the 2020 decade, but just never really did it for me. I'm gonna put in the D tier. Justin Bieber, the Biebs. Now, this is another case where in the first half of this decade, just didn't like any of his songs. He was still kind of in that teeny bopper stage, but during the mid 2010s and in the latter half of the 2010s, he kind of started going with the dance hall vibe, and I think that Purpose album was pretty good. Having songs like "What Do You Mean," "Sorry," "Love Yourself," which blew up all over radio 2015, 2016. I thought, damn, Bieber, he has some pretty good bangers here. And, he's been staying busy with the features, appearing on DJ Khaled, collaborating with, Louis Fonzi, which was up until Old Town Road came along, was the longest charting #1 hit in Billboard history, Despacito. Even though Bieber, it wasn't really his song, but you can give him credit to that for making it blow up as much as it did on the remix. So Bieber had a pretty busy decade. First half of the decade did not like. Second half of the decade was a little bit warmer on. So I'm going to put him in the C tier. Justin Timberlake, kind of as the decade started, trying to do his acting career. He was on The Social Network, which is still probably one of the most critically acclaimed movies of the 2010s. And so he kind of put his music career on hiatus, and then he popped up in 2013 with 2020 Experience, double album, famous for Suit and Tie, Mirrors. And this is like, oh my god, Justin Timberlake is back. He's killing the radio. Great album, won Grammys, did a great VMA performance. But then Man in the Woods came, and yeah, that didn't really do so well. The whole country 808s pop thing didn't really hit as much like his 2020 Experience thing did. So because of that, and because of a pretty lackluster Super Bowl performance, I'm gonna put him in the C tier. Hate to do it to my man JT, but it wasn't really as solid a decade as he had in the 2000s. Katy Perry, and people who have watched this channel know how I feel about Katy Perry. They think I hate Katy Perry. They think I wish death upon her. That's not the truth. Alright? Sure, she's a, wonderful person, but she's just never really been my cup of tea. She had a big decade, tons of #1 hits. And then after 2015 with Witness, the sales and the attention kind of dwindled down. And then, I'm not going to say that she's irrelevant because I made that video debating where she's irrelevant, but she's definitely not the tier that she was in the beginning of the 2010s. Let's be honest about this, all right? When Teenage Dream came out, that was the biggest album in the world. And now, it's not her lane. It's not her stage anymore, But, so I'm going to put her in the D tier. She's just not for me. That's all I'm going to say. Kelly Clarkson, 2010s, it was a lackluster decade. 2000s, she had some great pop songs that really kind of, they were kind of like, had some rock influence, edgy, and not like edgy in terms of like, punk rock, but they were slightly edgy side of her. Since She Begun was a huge single for her. 2010s, didn't really have. She kind of played it safe. By this time, she was still a big pop star, but she wasn't really challenging. What's that song? She had a #1 hit, What Doesn't Make You Stronger, but it's kind of forgettable. And she became more of a celebrity during this decade, being on The Voice, having her own talk show. Music isn't really her top priority anymore. So, yeah, Kelly Clarkson would put her in the D tier. Kesha. Now, Kesha, when she came out, did not like her. And really, she was emblematic of the whole EDM pop that was going on in the first half of the decade. And it was just not my type of music, TikTok, all that stuff. But really, Kesha didn't capture my attention until her 2017 album, Rainbow, which, came after a slew of controversial moments for her thing with Dr. Luke, which sucks. I don't wish that upon anybody. And really, she became more, introspective and personal. I thought that song Praying was one of my favorite songs of 2017. An amazing song for her career. Kind of gave her that second wind. And, in my opinion, really brought her critical acclaim for the first time in her career. So I don't know where she's going to go in the 2020s. Is she going to go towards that lane, or is she going to go back to making pop music? It seems like the former, but I really hope that she kind of goes in where she did with Rainbow, just making these powerful, just jaw dropping, because it was a great performance on that song Praying. But yeah, if I'm being honest, for the most part, Kesha didn't really capture my attention. So, gonna put in a D tier. Now, I'll put in a C. Lady Gaga, another one, just has never really been my cup of tea. Especially with the Born This Way era. Now, she did have some songs that were pretty good. I thought the Edge of Glory song was great. That collaboration she did with Clarence Clemens. God rest his soul. I thought, sadly, the song with R. Kelly was a pretty decent song. Looking back at it, pretty cringy. The Joanne album, I thought, had some decent songs on there. A Million Reasons is a pretty good ballad. And, the things she did with, Stars Born with Bradley Cooper, Shallow, it's a great song. But, she's just never really been my cup of tea. I think there's songs that I've liked, songs that I didn't like, but she is talented. When she's on the radio, I don't want to turn her off. So, I'm going to put her in the C tier. LMFAO, yeah, remember these guys? Yeah, they completely fell off the map after 2012. So, I'm just going to put them in the F tier. Party Rock Anthem was cool when it came out, but it's dated and aged like sour milk. Lorde. Now, Lorde came out with Pure Heroin in 2013. Obviously, that song Royals. And in a sense, Royals did kind of change pop music. She became the first of a new era of pop diva where it was okay not to look beautiful. It was okay to kind of be low key. It was okay to kind of embrace indie influences in pop music. And, if it wasn't for Lorde, we wouldn't have Halsey. We wouldn't have Billie Eilish even. I think you have to give credit for Lorde for kind of doing something new in pop music. With Royals kind of being like this, anti pop message while being a pop song was pretty clever. And, she came out with Team, which I thought was the better song. I love, songs like Team and Tennis Court. Pure Heroin, I think, was a pretty solid album. And then she came out with Melodrama, which is one of the most acclaimed pop albums of the decade. An album that I think a lot of people like it more than I do. I think it's a solid album. And definitely an album which, she avoided the sophomore slump and established her as not just this is like a pop star. This is a real star. This is a person that whatever she makes is gonna move the needle. And Melodrama, I was shocked that it didn't have pop hits, because it had some pretty good pop songs on that album. And I'm surprised that it didn't really kill the radio like that. But it did great for her career. So I think Lorde is a great pop star. And of course, she's coming out with a new album this year, so interested to see what she does with that. But I think she's pretty solid. I'm going to put her in the A tier. Meghan Trainor. Um, yeah, just not a fan. Not a fan. Sure she's a nice woman, but she's just not for me. Just not for me. Gonna put her in the D tier. Migos. Like I said, you can maybe put these in the rap category, but listen, if your song is in McDonald's commercials, you're a pop superstar. And listen, when Migos came out, with Versace, it was a decent hit. But when they blew up with Bad and Bougie, it was Migos Mania out here, and everybody was talking about Migos. So, they crossed over in a way that very few rap stars do. And, they were on the cover of Rolling Stone. They were performing on Saturday Night Live. Like, they had a moment. And, while that moment has died down a bit, they can still turn around and they can still move the needle if they wanted to. So, but that brief 3-year period when everybody was talking about Migos, they were great. And listen, Bad and Bougie I think is a pretty good song. I like T-Shirt. Stir Fry I thought was great. Love the beat on that. Pharrell did the beat on that. With Migos, you're gonna get what you're gonna get. They're not gonna throw any curveballs at you. But for the most part, I did enjoy their rise. So I'm going to put them in the B tier. And I will say this: I think Migos, you have to give them credit for, like Lorde did in the pop sphere. They really did have an influence in the rap sphere. Like, a lot of people started rapping like Migos. The Migos flow became a cultural term. Even Drake, who came out way before Migos, started doing the Migos flow. Even Kendrick, even ironically, but Kendrick was kind of doing the Migos flow. Eminem was doing the Migos flow. Kanye was doing the Migos flow. Like, everybody started doing that fucking Migos flow. That, like, stop-start thing that they would do. So, yeah, you gotta give them credit. They did have a big impact in rap and pop music. So, gotta show them respect. Miley Cyrus. Miley Cyrus, it was literally like, I don't know. It was like one project I would like from her, and then another project I didn't like from her. I guess that's what she's trying to do. She's trying to be like a Madonna-esque figure where she changes it up every album, every 2 years. And if that era is for you, then it's for you. If it's not, then it's not. She came out with bangers, and probably her biggest album of the decade. But it's just not for me. Wrecking Ball, We Don't Stop. Yeah, I didn't really care so much for that. And then she came out with that psychedelic album in 2015, Miley Cyrus and Her Pets, just a complete skip. The Malibu single, skip, just not for me. But Miley Cyrus did have some songs. She did a song with Mark Ronson. It was kind of like a country disco song, and I thought that was pretty good. And yeah, it's weird to say, but yeah, Miley Cyrus, her recent album, Plastic Hearts, was pretty good, but that's in the 2020s, so we can't count that. So for the most part, Miley Cyrus, her music, especially that bangers era, was annoying, just like cringy at the most, and her trying to be edgy, fake rebel type stuff, I just did not appreciate. And then also when she tried to be like normal, with her like country Return to Country album, it didn't work for me. So gotta put her in the D tier. Just did nothing for me. Except that Mark Ronson song. Didn't really like what Miley Cyrus did during this era. Pharrell, well, sounds like I'm in puberty. Pharrell came out with a huge. He had a pretty solid decade, producer wise. With the Daft Punk collaboration, one of my favorite songs of that decade. Really broke Daft Punk into the pop stratosphere and helped Random Access Memories become their biggest selling album. And then Pharrell came out with his own, it was kind of like a Pharrell wave a little bit in 2013, when he came out with his solo album, Girl. And, that album had a couple of decent hits, Marilyn Monroe, Hunter, whatever. Happy was the song from the Despicable Me soundtrack. That's the one that completely made Pharrell into a pop superstar on his own right. He always started being a producer in hip hop, and then he moved on to a pop producer, and then he became like a guest singer. And now he's doing his own stuff. And yeah, Happy is a song when it came out. You can't really share that song. I mean, it's a song about feeling happy. It is what it is. It's not anything challenging, but you know, I think Pharrell had. If we're talking about his solo career, it was okay. It was nothing to go home about. I mean, producer wise, I would put him in the A or S tier. But if we're talking about him as a pop star with the Pharrell hats, yeah, he had a moment. But you know, so I'm gonna put him in the B tier. Pink didn't have quite the stranglehold on the pop imagination like she did in the 2000s, where literally everything she came out was a number one hit. 2010, she kind of slowed down a little bit, or maybe because the public didn't really check for her like that. I don't know what it was, but you know, she did have a couple number one hits. Raise Your Glass, what is it? That song she did with Nate Ruess, which is a song that I didn't really like that much. I didn't really like Pink. She kind of played it safe during this era, kind of like Kelly Clarkson. Didn't really hear her on the radio as much. You know, kind of slowed down her musical output. Did not, you know, in the 2000s, you know, Pink had some great pop songs that were energetic, that were fun, but it also had some ballads that were great as well. I mean, obviously she's a very talented singer, but I think she didn't really have the consistent musical output that she did in the 2000s, so I'm going to put her in the D tier. Pitbull, my man, Dale, Mr. Worldwide. Man, this guy in the first half of 2010s, you cannot escape him if you had earplugs. I mean, this guy was everywhere, and from the first half of the 2010s. Had like Timber, you know, and especially, you know, when the EDM pop thing was huge in the 2010s, where everything that he put out was killing in the clubs. Even that dumb Men in Black soundtrack that he did, which was horrible, was killing it in the clubs. So everything that this man touched turned to gold. You know, collaborating with Usher, Christina Aguilera, making other artists that are not even associated with electronic music, bringing them into that world and giving them hits. I mean, this guy was killing it. And then after 2014, 2015, all of a sudden people just stopped listening to Pitbull. And Pitbull was no longer making hits anymore. It was just like, wasn't even warned. It was just like abrupt. Like, no more Pitbull on the radio. Which in some respects is kind of sad because, you know, Pitbull, listen, you're going to get what you're going to get. He brings fun. He's not overly complex. You know, he brings the party, you know? And, like, I made a video about this, about the weekend. Post 2015, everybody just stopped wanting to dance in clubs. And everybody started listening to moody pop music. And Pitbull's not down with that. He's not gonna switch it up to make this moody, dreary pop music. He's about having fun. He's Mr. Worldwide. So yeah, with Pitbull, is he for me per se? No, but I think the persona did what it did. So I'm gonna put him in the D tier. No, you know what? I'll put him in the C tier. I'll be nicer because, you know, they're decent club pop songs. What can I say? Some of them are catchy. Post Malone. So Post Malone came out, hated him, hated that White Iverson song. I thought it's one of my least favorite songs of 2010s, and I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? He has face tattoos, white guy with corn dreads. We all know how we feel about that subject. We're not gonna dive in. We're not gonna get political on this channel, but I felt, you know, a lot of people felt the type of way. You know, that's all I'm gonna say. And he just, and kind of like Cardi B was like, all right, he had his one hit, and he'll just go away. But what do you know? The next 5 years, this guy is one of the biggest pop stars in the world. Just singles, like you wouldn't believe, like hit after hit after hit after hit. Some of them, I'll admit, were pretty good. Rockstar, I thought was pretty good. Congratulations. It's a pretty good song. Um, Even Circles, kind of, I thought was a song that, wasn't really hip hop flavored, but kind of doing like this mid tempo rock song. Even better now. But then there are songs that, Post Malone's like doing his ballads, Psycho. Just, I did not like that song. White Iverson, I didn't like that song. Wow, didn't like that song. So, Post Malone, very hit and miss. I don't like his albums as well. I think he's more of a singles artist. But I think Post Malone has carved out his own space in the pop world. You can't label him in hip hop. You can't label him in rock. You can't label him in pop. He kind of does his own thing. And, listen, he's conquered the mainstream in a way. He's not going to be in magazine covers. I mean, look at his fucking face. Are you going to put that in, are you going to put that in GQ magazine? No. But his fans fuck with him heavy. I'll give him that. So, he has his own lane, and he does great in that lane. So, I guess that's the nicest thing I was going to say about him. I'm going to put him in the C tier. Robin Thicke, came out with Blurred Lines. When that song came out, it was everywhere, and I love that song. It had, Pharrell was on that, T.I. was on it. It was a great song until you heard that, oh, wait, they stole it from Marvin Gaye, in a sense. As we all know, that song lists from Marvin Gaye's Got to Give It Up, and that whole ordeal happened, and turns out that, yeah, they did kind of steal that song, and Marvin Gaye's family won that trial. It was a big ordeal. And really, I'm going to tell you where I went wrong for Robin Thicke. I don't know if I mentioned this, but that VMA performance of Miley Cyrus, it seemed like that twerk that Miley Cyrus did brought bad juju on Robin Thicke's career, because really, after that moment, it went downhill for his musical career. Paula came out, sold 5,000 copies. 5,000 copies in the UK. I'm talking about Robin Thicke here. This is a guy with #1 album a previous year. Didn't release another album. 5,000 copies. Just pretty bad. It also makes it worse when you considering that it was supposed to be his Hear My Dear album. So it was bad. And yeah, he's been a Masked Singer, but his profile has dimmed a little bit. So talented singer, but just didn't really turn out the way it should have in this decade. So put him in D tier. Selena Gomez, another artist that just hasn't been for me. It is what it is. She's had success. She's established herself, kind of getting away from that Disney realm, and like Miley Cyrus and Ariana Grande, she's kind of ventured into, all right, I'm a pop star now, and yeah, she's had some hits, but it's just none of them really hit for me. So I'm gonna put her in the D tier. Shawn Mendes, yeah, another one, just doesn't really do anything for me. Just very, very bland, very average. So I'm also gonna put him in the D tier. Sia, I think Sia, in a sense, reinvented herself. With the whole I'm gonna be mysterious, whatever. And she kind of reinvented herself as a pop singer, with Chandelier and Cheap Thrills. They don't really stick out to me. I think she has her own kind of quirky aesthetic that she has. But am I going to be blasting a Sia song anytime soon? No. She's talented, but it just doesn't really do it for me. So I'm going to put her in the C tier. Because at least there's songs that I don't, hate, Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift. Very interesting decade, to say the least. She's also one of those where it's like, if you love her, you love her. If you don't like her, then you hate her. And she has a very divided fan base, a public opinion on her. But I'll keep it short because there's a lot to cover her in this decade. I don't like country pop. That's really not my thing. And so when she kind of did that earlier in the decade, it just wasn't my thing, you know. And then 1989 came out, probably the album that I liked the most from her in this decade, because at least it was a pop album. She was covering 80s synth pop, new wave elements in there. So, all right, I can warm up to that. You know, there were songs like Shake It Off, which I hated. Songs like Blank Space, which I hated. Bad Blood, like I hated. But songs like Style, songs like Wildest Dreams, I was more lukewarm towards. Even some songs on Reputation, you know, even, I would say when she came out with that lead single, Look What You Made Me Do, it was a not a flop, but it was definitely like a what the fuck moment from, like, I don't think anybody was expecting that. But there were some songs on that Reputation album that were decent. The song that she did with Ed Sheeran in the Future was okay. Even Lover, you know, Lover, the title track it's a pretty good ballad. So it was very hit and miss for me in this decade for Taylor Swift. So I think it's fair to say I'm gonna put her in the C tier. Chainsmokers, no, just a flat out no, just a no. So I'm gonna put them in the F tier. Travis Scott, you know, when you have your own McDonald's meal, you're a pop superstar. And really, I also think you gotta put this in the criteria too. If you're a hip hop star and any song you put out automatically goes number one, I mean, that means you're a pop star, okay? So Travis Scott came out 2015, 2014, you know, so not the whole decade, but when he became a pop star with Sicko Mode and Highest in the Room, and, you know, collaborating with MIA and Drake and all that stuff. So Travis Scott, listen, he has his own aesthetic. You like it or you don't. Birds in the Trap, Sing McKnight, didn't like that album as much. The song he did with Young Thug, You Pick Up the Phone, yeah, they didn't really like that one. So Travis Scott, like I said, hit or miss. I'm gonna put him in the C tier. Last but not least, Usher, you know, had a monster 2000s, as we all know. In the 90s, he was really great too. 2010s, Usher was kind of chasing that pop EDM sound, and then the latter half was trying to chase that trap pop sound, and he hasn't aged gracefully as I thought he would be. Usher, I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, one of the best R&B singers, stars in the past 25 years. Love Usher, love 90s Usher, love 2000s Usher. Even loving this club, I'll give praise to. But 2010s Usher, yeah, pass. And it's not that he was bad. It was just that Usher. It didn't really feel like he was. It just kind of seemed like he was grasping at straws. Now listen, you know, Usher comes out with a song. I'm never gonna turn it off. You know what I mean? Because it's Usher. Yeah, he's amazing, but it's very lackluster for Usher standards. So I'm gonna put him in the C tier. You know, hate to do it, but I gotta be honest. So that is my tier list for the pop singers of 2010s. Tell me what you think in the comments section. You know, you like this tier list, you hate this tier list. Curious to know what you think. YouTube recommends these other tier lists to check out after this one. Till next time, love you guys. Peace.